You might have noticed the weather's starting to turn colder. And we here at ProtectOurVeterans.org are raising money thinking about the winter months coming up. Please, go to ProtectOurVeterans.org and donate today. Thank you. Thank you, my friends. Thank you for coming along and joining us on the 4-1 Girl podcast. I am your host, Callie, and I thank you for joining us today. We've had a big week this week. We had an election in Virginia, New Jersey, out in Minneapolis, Buffalo, New York. We had, mayor elections, governor elections, and things didn't quite go as well for the Democrats if they were elected. They almost lost New Jersey. When you have 1 million Democrats more than Republicans, you should not have a governor's race where you only win by a few thousand votes. Am I right? Politics is in my blood, and I love to watch so many things that are going on. One of the things that I'll be talking about today is schools. And as a former teacher, I bring something to the background where it is absolutely ridiculous to me. Absolutely ridiculous that individuals think that it's okay to teach about race in our schools to children of such a young age. I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And I know people know how I feel about race and how it's important to me to make sure that people understand. I played college athletics. I was in the military. And both of those organizations are probably the least racist organizations in the world. Because I tell you, when I got off the field, I don't care whether it was a battlefield or a football field. I didn't care what my brother-in-arms looked like. Black, white, Chinese. Didn't matter to me. Indian. We were on the same team, trying to get for the same mission. I have so many different feelings about race and race relations, and I just don't understand it. Everybody says, you got the token black. No, I got a lot of black friends. I have a lot of white friends. I have a lot of Spanish friends, a lot of Chinese friends. A lot of, I should say Asian, because Chinese, Filipino, Japanese. When you look inside the church, we're a melting pot. Those are friends. No matter what race you are. And that's the problem. And that's definitely a problem. That's something I want to talk about as well. Is how race should not be the first thing you look at an individual. And I'm telling you, every 2 to 4 years, I'm not being political as far as whether you're a Democrat or Republican, but every 2 to 4 years, the Democrats come out and tell Republicans you're racist, you're misogynist, so on and so forth. And just the list is long. I'm just sick of hearing it. Look, you may have a different philosophy when it comes to politics. That's fine. I'll debate anybody if they want to debate politics. But just calling somebody and saying, you're racist. Okay, name me one. You're racist? Jamil Hill, ESPN. I never liked her anyway. I never liked her sports commentary. But she was on a show with somebody that I did like. And it's just incredible to her to say that Virginia likes white supremacy. Okay. Here's something I have to say. And I'm just trying to sneak this in before the commercial break. When you say that you have a problem in Virginia because of white supremacy, you are just talking out of your proverbial butthole. Okay? The Democrats ran the whitest of white governors in Terry McAuliffe for former governor. Rich white guy. It's okay for them to write a white guy, right? The Republicans ran a rich white guy to counteract that. But the lieutenant governor, she was born in Jamaica. She's a woman of color. She's black. She's proud of it. And we're proud of her. She's a Marine. And you could tell from the beginning, you know how I feel about protect our veterans. So she's a Marine. Her husband's a Marine. Her adorable daughters that were on stage. Proud as could be that they're American. They're the first generation Americans, her daughters. Beautiful girls. And then you have a man of Cuban ethnicity who's now the Attorney General in Virginia. Let's see. White governor, black lieutenant governor, Cuban Attorney General. 3 powerful spots in the state. Yeah, I see white supremacy there. We're going to talk about that when we come back, after you hear from this commercial message. Thank you. I appreciate you having our sponsors looked out for. Can't do the show without sponsors, right? So just before the break, we were talking about Jamil Hill and talking about how Virginia loves white supremacy. I don't see it that way. Again, white governor, black lieutenant governor, female black lieutenant governor, the highest person of color, a woman of color, elected in the state of Virginia, and a Cuban ethnicity, ethnic background as the new Attorney General. I don't see white supremacy in there, folks. I really don't. Excuse me, I had to take a little sip of that. I went with the hot chocolate and coffee today. A little chilly here up in the Northeast. But if you think about it, when you're looking at individuals, does it matter what color you are? See, the Democratic Party continues to say they're for minorities, but what do? What have they done for minorities? Nothing. And it's coming back to bite them. Now they want to talk about critical race theory. Let me tell you a little story. A second grader does not need to hear about how she enslaved black individuals from 1856. Okay? Critical race theory is for college students. And it would be really nice for college students to actually learn something. You know, when I went to college, I know a lot of professors are way to the left. But I also had a ton of professors that were right down the middle. And I had professors that were to the left that liked good conversation. Believe me, I came firing every day. You know, I found it to be amazing that the professors would actually challenge us. So I didn't want to look stupid when I went to class. So I went to the library, I learned. You know, I came with ammunition. You know, to try to fight the agreement. Was I going to change his mind? There was nothing I could have said. I could have had the most brilliant summation ever. But at least he let me talk. At least he let students in the class listen to what I had to say. You don't get that anymore. You definitely don't get that anymore. And that's a problem. People need to hear both sides of every issue. I'm telling you, I'm gonna tell you this now. I'm gonna jump off the political bandwagon. Okay? But Republicans are going into inner cities, right? And they're finding candidates. It doesn't matter what color they are, as long as they keep the same ideology. Because let me tell you, okay? I have boys. If I had girls, okay, and there was a member of my family that got raped by a boy wearing a skirt in a bathroom, and they didn't do anything about it, and they transferred him to another school to do it again, you would not want to hear what I had to say about that. Okay? I'll tell you that much. That is just wrong on so many different levels. People need to wake up. I don't know what they watch. I mean, do you listen to NPR on speed dial? You listen to MSNBC. I was listening to MSNBC. I clicked it over. And I was talking to somebody after we were watching it. And I was like, I can't watch this. They're talking about how Virginia has gone the way of whites. I'm like, oh my Lord. These people want to take Jefferson off our schools. The third president of the United States. The person who wrote the Constitution. Why? Yes, Jefferson had slaves. He actually formed a relationship with one and had several children. But that was the time. Times change. Anybody ever read the Bible? What did the Egyptians do to the Israelis? The Israelites. Right? Was it right then? No, it wasn't right in the 1800s. It's definitely not right now. It's awful. And then I get individuals tell me, well, there's no slaves today. Really? What are those Mexican cartels crossing the border with? Human trafficking. If you're trafficking humans, isn't that slave trade? Right? So I don't want to hear about it. No person has the right to stop someone's personal liberty. End of story. You know, some of the things that hurts the most, and I know I like this show Outlander, and I don't want to make this whole show about race, but I love the show Outlander. I really do. And I'm sure you folks have seen it on Stars. If you haven't, you have to watch it. But there's a part in there that deals with slavery. And without giving anything away, one of the main characters who's actually gone back in time is appalled at it. Well, I have to tell you, every time I watch something like that, I'm appalled at it as well. Because I'm thinking of my friends, family members, people I've dated of color. And then you're looking back at those days like, your head spins. Because it's so disgusting. But telling a second grader that because she's white, she's got certain privileges. Let me tell you, if you're a minority, when you sign on some of the state exams, you're given points. They wanted to do that with education. You're going to get points on the exam. If you're in the military, you get points on the exam. This country will not be to where it should be until we don't look at people's colors of skin. Everybody's treated the same. Right? But you look at Hollywood. I mean, you shouldn't look at Hollywood for anything, get me wrong, but just think about it. They're all always up in arms when they're looking at people, oh, they didn't get an Oscar nomination. They didn't get 50% of the Oscar nominations. People of color. People of color. Blacks are only 13% or 14% of the United States population. If you're going to go do it that way, they should be getting 13% of the awards, right? Or the Hispanics should be getting 17% of the awards. Or whatever else. It's not because of the color of your skin. If you do well, you do well. If you're the best actor, you're the best actor. End of story. But individuals seem to bully. Like, listen, I'm the first person, I'm going to tell you, I'm the first person in the world to support gay rights. I had a gay roommate who I loved dearly, dearly, dearly. I don't care what sexual orientation you are. Will I defend your rights? Every day. Do I want you to be a bully and start cancel culture? No. It's not right. Cancel culture should never, ever, ever be part of anyone's platform. And you should never bully anyone to make that a platform. And once that happens and you start getting bullied by a small percent of the population, that's called wokeism. Don't buy Coke because you're woke, because they're woke. Sorry. I'm with a friend and she's telling me don't buy Coke. I like Coke. It tastes good. Right? But she was so adamant about it. I was like, okay, no Coke. I'm not drinking Coke. Then I'm saying to myself, why did I fall in? And then I see Coke. Like, I should be embarrassed to be white to work at Coca-Cola? It makes you think, right? So, that's a little bit about what I want to say on racism and wokeness. And I'm glad that the election's over with and maybe we can actually learn and go back to doing, the X's and O's and what good policies and good economics. That's what, should we, have higher taxes? Should the government deal with all the money, or should private? Those are what we should be talking about in these elections. Not children in school in second grade is learning CRT and all that kind of good stuff. So on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about how individuals are being affected by all this. See you on the flip side. Thanks again for coming back to us. And when I said see you guys on the flip side, I had a thought in my head. And I looked at it as, one of the things that really bothered me more than anything else, is individuals who don't understand what it's like to be in school today and have children wonder, what is my teacher talking about? We closed schools for the pandemic because we didn't wear masks, even though we had herd immunity. Even though they want to vaccinate my kids, but I don't want to get into that today. Why is America, who spends more money per student than any other country in the world, at the bottom of arithmetic, at the bottom of language, at the bottom of science? Bottom. Yet we spend more money per student than any other country in the world. How is that possible? How is that possible? Because we're getting away from reading, writing, and arithmetic. Right? Remember all those songs on Saturday morning? Conjunction, junction, What's your function? I still remember those. Hammer for a hunk of cheese. We're talking about everything else but what we're supposed to talk about. All of a sudden, mathematics is racist. What? Mathematics is racist? Could somebody please explain that to me? I still haven't looked at it. I still have not looked to find out how mathematics is considered racist. Please, anybody want to tell me? I'd be happy. Email me at callan@callanhunter.com. Send me an email. Tell me what's going on. I'd appreciate you. Right? Is that tough? I would love it if somebody could. It's about science. Are they going to tell me that if you look at a science equation that's racist? Oh, there's too much NaCl2, which is salt, in the equation. Must be white supremacy. I don't get it. I'm trying to, you're making a joke out of it, but you still think about it and say, that was dumb. Is this what we're going up against? And I don't want to go up against any of that kind of stuff. We need to go back. We need to be number one in science again. What would you rather do? Sit in school and just look at the board as the teacher just goes on and talks about some crazy CRT thing, or, white people are bad, or white supremacy is bad, or you just want to learn. You want to go in the science lab and you want to blow some stuff up. Kidding. Especially if my kids will listen to it. Kidding. I'm not saying blow stuff up, but make some cool stuff. I remember in college, I loved going to the chemistry labs. We had a blast. We had these beautiful, I always wore my ski goggles. And the professors were always like, are those safe? I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely. I don't know if they're safe or not, but the girls always thought it was funny. You'd sit there and you'd do something. Remember, I was so excited I made aspirin in the lab. It was like one of the first things I did. I was in chemistry lab and I made aspirin and I was so happy. I thought it was the greatest thing on earth. Then we're in biology lab dissecting things. I'm like, oh, we did these like the biggest rats you'd ever want to see in your life. That was in high school. I was sitting there going, ugh. That's why I'm not a medical doctor, because there's no way I like cutting up things. It was crazy because my lab partner was counting on me to be the tough guy. Here I am, the big jock in school, and I could not do it. But you get over it, you do. I remember we did the frogs first. Remember that? You'd have to cut the frog open, and then you'd pin the frog back. And then you'd start looking at it. Oh, this is hot. This is intestines. Come on, you all must have done that at least once. And then he did the rats. And then he did the pig. It was crazy. So those are some of the things that kids should be learning. Computer science. Do we want to take a back seat to the Chinese technology? I mean, the military's all up in the air that we're worried about. They have one of those heat-seeking missiles now that we can't detect. I kind of worry about that, Start thinking about it. I was like, oh, jeez. Then you hear the, generals on TV, we're 25, 30 years away from falling behind the Chinese. Hey, hello? Well, all the smart kids. Start learning. Right? But how do smart kids learn? Where everybody learns. Everybody has the ability to be something in this world. Right? Remember that experiment in economics where the teacher takes a pencil out and you say, how many people does it take to make this pencil? Everybody raised their hand. One person. It takes one person to make this pencil. Really? So it only takes one person. So you're saying that some person just used the wood for the pencil, created the lead, created the band that goes around it, and then you start thinking, oh, maybe not. I was like, well, how many people you need it? Then you go from the machine that made the lead, and so on and so forth, and then you have the CEO of the company and the marketing group, and how do you get that pencil to market? Then it keeps going on and on and on and on, and then you find out there's like thousands of people that made that pencil, right? Or had their hand on that pencil. Not literally, but figuratively. Those are the things that kids need to learn and make people think. Where did we get away from that? When did we get away from that? When did we get away from schools just totally turning their backs on what's more important? These school committees. Okay? You know who's running these school committees? These George Soros types. They go into these big cities. They pump a bunch of money into a candidate. And they get them to sit in a school board. And then they try to change what children learn. I can't believe I heard somebody say that it should be American politicians, not Americans, I meant to say, that are in charge of all this stuff. Are they serious? Are they seriously telling me that the government knows more about how to educate my children than the parents? I gotta be honest with you, there's some smart parents out there. They know what they want their kids to learn. I know if my parents went up there, they'd be like reading, writing, and arithmetic. And they would be saying, hey, he needs to learn something. Because he's not very handy with his hands. Okay? He couldn't build anything. He couldn't fix a motor. He couldn't do this, couldn't do that. I'm like, okay, is there anything I can do? Yeah, you know what? You can learn to write. You can learn about computer science. All that good stuff. So I did. Okay? I was mechanically challenged. One of the things I say to individuals is like, listen, if you go to school to study philosophy, I know I'm getting my doctorate in theology, but I have a background in other things. You want to study philosophy, what are you going to do? Be a stand-up philosopher? You're going to be Mel Brooks in History of the World Part 1? No. But you're going to do other things, right? Okay, so let's do other things. You have an opportunity to have the world as your oyster. You could become a plumber. How hard is it to get a plumber? An electrician. There's so many technical fields that we need workers for. Computer science, programming, wiring up buildings. There's jobs out there. Good, hard paying, good jobs for hard workers. Making a heck of a lot more money than a stand-up philosopher who's a barista at Starbucks. If there's anything wrong with being a barista at Starbucks, let me tell you, a plumber's going to make a heck of a lot more money than you do. Right? When you're going to college, you go to college to learn. Programming, chemistry, mathematics. You can never go wrong with mathematics, chemistry, physics, engineering. English. You can use people like English degree. What do you use English degree for? All you gotta do is write. No. Okay? Becoming a salesman. Being able to put two words together. All kinds of different things. That is what. Go to school, do something. Go to school to learn. You can have fun. You can do all kinds of things and have fun. You know? I mean, we had a couple of chemists in our frat. We had some pretty good times. And no, it wasn't all about making the perfect drink. And no, it definitely wasn't about making the perfect weed. I don't think it was anyway. But I digress. That was a long time ago. Long time ago. But we had fun. Right? We had so much fun. You know, one of the things I was thinking about is when I started this podcast and I'm going through it, working on it and try to become better all the time. And I appreciate everybody downloading it and sharing them, spreading the word. It's one of the things I thought about is, I used to listen to Rush Limbaugh all the time. And everybody's like, oh, it's amazing how Rush could keep your attention for all the time. He would take phone calls in like the second or third hour. But in the first hour was just Rush just talking. And some of the things I like to do is I like to talk. I like to spread the malarkey like with the best of them. And one of those times are, I like certain things to say. And, I have an opinion. And I have an opinion to tell people, listen, you need to go to school and you don't have to decide what you want to do, but you have to decide on trying to do something. Okay? Listen, if you want to major in history, become a double major. That's what I did. One of my majors is in history. Okay? I learned computers, which is math, and I took history because I liked it. One of the things that you should do when you go to school is you pick something you want to do. Okay? And if you want a double major, double major. You know how I got my damn major? I went to school in the summers. Generally, I went to school in the summers because, I was in the military, so I had to do that. And then I generally had to get surgeries done from beating up my body from athletics, but that's another day. I would just go to school, pick up a couple of classes. 2 or 3. Take some of the 3-week classes, get them in and out. Bada boom, bada boom. But you know what? You have to read the books. You have to do all that kind of stuff. It was great. I learned a lot. That's what, if you want to major in philosophy, major in philosophy. Or major in something else, engineering. Do something. That always kind of works out. Anyway, we're going to take our last commercial break. And after that, we will just wrap up the show. Thanks so much. Hello, everyone. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. I'm sitting here and I am thinking about, what we just broke off from. I thought about individuals how we ended up winning. And what I mean by winning is we ended up going to school. We picked up a few great careers and we ran with it. I was so lucky to be on the cusp of when software and software programming and, my career was in auditing, but I was investigative auditor on the computer side of the house. And it was a new field that nobody really knew about. But I did it. It was great. And once I did, I thought it was the greatest thing ever. And I am so happy. I jumped on the bandwagon when Windows 95 came out. I didn't do no darn thing about it. But by the end, I did. And I was really happy about it. And I was really pleased. And, I was at that cusp. I didn't know anything. And all of a sudden, a whole new lifestyle was coming around. That box that sat on my desk was going to make me more money than I ever thought I could make in my life. Very proud of that. I always think of that. You know what I mean? I was so just pleased that I was able to learn a whole career on a computer and just work my way up and work and study and study and study. And I thought it was like one of the most exciting times of my life. You know, the only thing that wasn't that exciting of it was I had every single person that knew me calling me up, asking me how to fix this, how to fix that, how to install my new hard drive, how do I install my new memory, how do I install the software? Because Windows 95 was 36 floppy disks, not the floppy disks, the 3.5 disks, right? Not the 5 1/4. And you'd go in there, boop, 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 and it was crazy. It was literally crazy. You did it so much. And we did. And you know what? It was amazing. And I can't say, and I literally got so many free meals from going to people, oh, I'll help you fix your computer. What are you cooking tonight? And like I said, my paychecks were growing every week. And all my philosophy major friends were working in supermarkets and working at retail because I couldn't find a job. I got to be honest with you, IBM wasn't hiring stand-up philosophers. You know? And they were standing up people who knew how to program. Or what was AIX? Or Linux. AIX is Unix. What was Lotus Notes? That was a big IBM. That was a great email system, very secure. Microsoft blew that out of the water. But it was funny because, you know, it was almost like the Dallas Cowboys against the New England Patriots. You know, it would be Microsoft was Dallas, or, you know, the Patriots were Linux or Unix, and they would battle back and forth in two different groups. And the Microsoft folks didn't want to talk to the Unix folks, and the Unix folks didn't want to talk to the Microsoft folks. It was fun. It was challenging. Oh, we had such a good time. We would sit there and argue over lunch about who's doing this, who's doing that. You know? But we did it, and it worked. And it worked great. And we loved it. And not only did we love it, we felt like we were changing the world. You know, I remember Y2K. I was working at Ocean Spray Cranberries at the time. I was doing a project at Ocean Spray Cranberries. They were so worried. They had way more infrastructure than they ever needed for a cranberry company. They spent millions of dollars on this stuff needlessly. They were so afraid of Y2K. It wasn't even funny. You know, and everybody was saying, oh, this is going to happen. They had us there at midnight. They had like the biggest spread you ever want to see. I remember they gave everybody like these big bonuses just to be there for New Year's Eve. I was like, all right, whatever. I can sit there all night. I ate like a king and just sat there and watched and laughed. And I kept telling them, I'm like, what are you guys worried about? All the computers are upgraded. There's nothing going to happen. You know, why didn't everything happen? Because we just pumped in so much money so it wouldn't happen. And it was amazing. It was absolutely amazing. Here is me with no skills, no mechanical skills, can't bang in a nail straight, made more money than I knew what to do with in the technical world. Just reading books. Literally reading books and trying all this new stuff and staying ahead of the curve, because that's what you needed to do back then. You know? So to tie all this back in, you know, we saw new industries and we a bunch of us grabbed it and we made a ton of money. And we're still making a ton of money doing it. And we're still ahead of the world in technology. But you know what? There's a lot of kids, a majority of kids today, that are getting out and they don't want to do that. You know, they don't want to be plumbers and electricians. They don't want to be, you know, I would say, working class or blue collar. But those guys, but plumbers, electricians, house painters, all those jobs where you can't find anybody, they're not making blue collar money. They're making more than the white collar folks. What are the white collar folks doing? Entry level stuff. Blue collar folks are making a mint. When you're playing a plumber $80 to $100 an hour, and you're making $40 to $50 an hour in your white collar job, who would you rather be? Right? Don't look down on anybody, because the blue collar folks are coming back. They're talking about, everything's going to be machine done and this and that. Who's going to fix these machines? Right? It's going to be electricians. All right? Who's going to build the machines? It all cyclical. It all comes back. You need to get a skill. And that, my friends, is what I want to bring in today. Education is great. But all those snotty kids that are getting education now and not building a trade or not working in the sciences or engineering and all that good stuff, what is that piece of paper worth? And when you go to these trade schools, you know what a trade school means? Money. You know what engineering means? Money. The sciences, hard sciences, money. A future, a family. The American dream. Okay? Not learning CRT or any of that other stuff. Remember that. And let me tell you, American parents are sick of these teachers' unions telling you what to do. Because I'll tell you, my sister was a teacher. And when she got sick, the first thing that the teachers union did was give her the boot. Who are they caring about? Nobody. They're caring about the unions. As I said, as a former teacher, let me tell you, those teachers unions are embedded in the Democratic Party, but they do nothing for anybody but themselves. And I'm talking about the upper echelon in those teachers unions. Okay? Because when the rank and file needs something, they cut the people's toes off just as quick as they came on. Remember that, folks. Don't be told what you should be taught. You're a parent. Don't be told what your kids should be taught. You're a parent. You know better. You're out there working your butt off. You know what they should be taught. Okay? Not these unions. It makes it easy for you. Well, that's all I have to say about that come today. And, sometimes after this, I have to take a few breaths and calm myself down and say, hey, it's going to get better. And it's going to get better fast. Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see you next time. I'll either do another podcast either tomorrow or the next day. I told a lot of you folks I'm working really hard to get these done. So I really, really, really appreciate you helping and taking the time as I go through these, and I'm learning as I go. I hope they're as interesting can be. Thanks so much. You can always get the feedback at callanhunter.com. God bless you all, and have a good night. If you want to advertise on a 401 Girl podcast, please contact Callan at callanhunter.com or call 617-319-8031. Thanks so much, and have a great day.